It is 9:30. We are going to call the, excuse me, George. Excuse me, folks. It's 9:30. Am I going to have to do that? Am I going to have to use the gavel to get everybody to order? Welcome to the public participation portion of the Volusia County Council meeting on this August the 3rd, and call the meeting to order. Do we have anyone requesting to speak at this time, Marcy?
No, sir. No, sir.
We have no one requesting to speak, so if you speak now, otherwise we will adjourn the public participation portion and see you back here at 10 o'clock. Thank you. Good morning. It is 10 o'clock. And we're going to call the meeting, the August 3rd meeting of the Volusia County Council to order at this time. Excuse me. Sorry. They told me that I could tell everyone to kind of calm down and we'll get our meeting started and have a nice meeting today. The meeting is called to order, and at this time, Tom Carey, who is employee of the county, environmental concerns of multitudes, and Tom is here at the request of our Marcy, because the person who was scheduled to be here, Dr. Mulkey, had to have a emergency transport of his mother, who's 93 years old. So we'll invite him back at another time, but Tom is going to offer the invocation, which will be followed by the pledge. Those on the council, I'm asking if you'd like to stand for this. The others can do as you wish.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair, honorable council members, staff, and distinguished guests. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you to welcome you to this meeting, not only as a welcomed guest, but as the MC of all that takes place here in the council today. We give you respect and acknowledge you as creator and provider. It is you who are omnipresent, for you're everywhere. It is you who are omnipotent, for you have all power. It is you who are omniscient, for you know everything. God, as the council begins this meeting, we ask that you would guide each member's thoughts and actions so that they may have a successful meeting today. Help them to accomplish their goals while displaying your character. Bless the staff, those that will be participating in this meeting today, and those that are outside these chambers doing the jobs. Keep them safe. Bless those who are overseas serving in the military. Protect them. And please bring them home safely. As always, I thank you for the recent rains. Thank you for the times of refreshing and replenishing our natural resources here in Volusia County. We pray and ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You're welcome.
You don't get to get a pen. And today we will have the roll call by Ms. Redline.
Dr. Lowry,
Dr. Lowry is absent, excused absent.
Mr. Patterson,
Here.
Ms. Post, here. Ms. Wheeler, Ms. Cusack, Ms. Denny's, and Mr. Kelly.
Here.
For the record, a unanimous vote will be 6-0.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to comment on any of the items on the consent agenda? Does anyone wish to... oh, sorry, Ms. Cusack. I was looking for a verbal response. My bad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to comment on item CC1. I'd like to pull that for discussion only.
Okay. Item CC1 is being pulled from the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull any other item? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda absent item CC1?
I move for the approval, Mr. Chair, of
I'm
the
sorry.
consent agenda.
Absent that. Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion stands. Ms. Cusack, item CC1.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to have a little bit of discussion about CC1. We continued that item from our last meeting as it related to the funding from the forfeiture of funds from the Sheriff Youth Foundation. I've been doing some research on what's going on with the PAL program. I think that we have some work to do. I'm going to agree to that this item today, but I'd like to see us, or I will continue to try to work with the PAL board. I don't know how the members are selected. I've been talking with people in the community. The PAL program is not being utilized by many of the young people in DeLand area. So I think we have to, even though $25,000 is not that much money to help, it was at one time designated for camp only, but I think if it can be utilized in better ways, we need to look at that. So we are going to have that funding there, but we need to have some discussion as to how we would proceed to make sure that we're utilizing it, and the youth of the land community are benefiting from the PAL program.
Okay.
With that being said, I'd like to have Sheriff Chitwood, if you can collaborate and tell me if you agree with what I'm saying here today.
No, Mr. Chairman and honorable members, I completely agree with the councilwoman. We should have a three-pronged approach. It should be education, sports, and mentoring, and right now that's just not getting done. We're just handing a check over and letting other people do what I believe is our responsibility to bring those programs into play. And right now we do absolutely nothing for our middle school children whatsoever, and when you start to see or you even interview them, it's the sixth graders that will tell you that's where they started to make the turn. So we want to be able to attack elementary, middle, and high is the goal.
And with that being said, Mr. Chair, I think that it just has opened my eyes as to the work that we need to get done to capture many of our youth in the land area. So then, if that is acceptable, I would move for the approval of item CC1.
Motion's made and seconded. Mr. Patterson, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I've talked to the members of the group, the PAL group, and they, I think they would disagree with what was just said here, because they said, you know, they've been doing this for about 16, 17 years, and there's been a lot of kids in the West Volusia area that have been impacted by it. So I think we need to probably get everybody together to make sure, because I've talked to 3 members of that board over there, and they all said the same thing, and not at the same time. They just freely told me of all the things that they've been doing over the years. So,
Well, where I've been talking with is the people in the community, the captains of the teams, and they pull many of the youth from that program. So it's not, as from the community perspective, it's not being utilized in the way that they would like to see it being utilized.
Well,
So I think we
I-
need to have some discussion about it and bring everybody to the table to see what we can do to make this work for all of us.
Sheriff Chitwood, I agree. I think that has to be. I know I was very involved with the PAL program in Ormond Beach. We had 3 national winners of the PAL nationally. We had 2 a girl and a male, both recognized as the National Youth of the Year for the entire national program, as well as adult volunteers, because of the activity and the involvement. And it takes the local community
Yes, it does.
being involved and caring about it. And so this money, as I understand it, will go to the entire West Volusia area, or is this only for?
No, that is correct, sir.
And I think it's important that the money be, and maybe we need to think that the areas, especially where you police and your officers are out involved in Deltona and some of the other areas where you provide the policing, it's very important that they see the involvement of your team there as leaders in the community. So I think it will be good, and like I said, make it the 3-pronged approach, and get the community people involved, get the parents.
And who's on the board? You see, I just think it's important that you have involvement from the community. If they're going to be consumers of this program, then we need to have input from the community.
well, Mr. Chair, I think if we're going to look at it, we need to look at all of the PAL programs. It seems like we're targeting just one group here, and I think, 'cause I've heard a lot of good things that this group over here has done, but somehow the community doesn't think, and maybe there's other thoughts in the other side, the east side of the county, about what the PAL program. So we need to look at the whole thing, not just one particular group target, the West Volusia group.
Well, but especially those where the sheriff provides the policing service, because the other communities, I know New Smyrna has a great PAL program, and some of the other ones, Holly Hill has their own program, and I don't think they've asked. Their officers are involved. And that's why it's very important. We had the DARE program, as you mentioned, sixth grade. DARE was for the fifth graders. And you try to do what you can before they make that jump to middle school, because that's a big age difference. They go from being the big man on campus as a fifth grader to being the low man of a middle school, and that's a huge difference when they do that. So, but anyway, the motion's been made and seconded. Any other comments?
Mr.
I
Chairman,
think that we still have work to do, and so I look forward to further dialogue as we proceed to make this program work.
Yeah,
And
very
I'm
quickly.
concerned about the West Volusia program.
we have $25,000 that is going to the Deland POW. We have the $25,000 that's going to the Youth Foundation that'll be used throughout the rest of the county.
Right.
We just went under national accreditation again. The assessors were just in, and they turned the organization inside out and upside down. One of the model programs that they're going to talk about in their report is in the last 7 months what we have implemented when it comes to juvenile justice and juvenile programs. And they are extremely interested in, when they come back 4 years from now, to see the seeds that we have sown with what we're doing in Deltona, what our plans are in Pearson, with what our plan is to tie everything together in DeLand. Everybody's fractured. You have a group here who does this, you have a group here who does that, and you have a group here who does something else, but nobody's tying this whole thing together that where we can cohesively attack elementary, middle, and high school, and give everybody the opportunity to participate. That's what the ultimate goal is, as the councilwoman said. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion stands. We will now move to item number 2, and this is a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing portion and go to staff report. Is there going to be a staff report on this one?
Mr. Chair, I'll make the staff report. This is an attempt to clarify the terms of the merit system, the personnel board. It requires a vote of 5 of you. It establishes the terms to be from January 1 to December 31, 6 years later. Hopefully, it eliminates some confusion that has arisen in the past by putting the terms of office within the code.
Well, I think this is what you brought to us at the end of the meeting, the last meeting, that you were going to bring this to us. So
Yes, sir. It varies slightly from what I told some of you in terms of the sequence. I reread the charter provisions, having spoken to some of you. So the sequence now will be that one term, it'll be 1, 2, 2, and that conforms exactly to the staggering that the charter provided
of
for.
the members. Okay, board. Ms. Denny's.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move approval of ordinance 2017-15, amending the merit system, section 86-40, Code of Ordinances, the County of Volusia.
Is there a second? Second by Wheeler. Made by Denny's. Any comments? Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion will stand. We'll move to item number 3.
And Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry.
Marcy Zimmerman, there was no public participation on that, because that was an
Right, I
advertised
closed
matter.
the
Just
public.
wanted, yes.
Right. We'll move to item 3, and Rick Carl is already there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. Rick Carl, Director of Aviation and Economic Resources. This is our preview of the Q briefing. We're having that tomorrow. Madam Vice Chair will be there in your stead, correct?
Yes, sir.
We have a lot of distinguished guests, so we invite you all to come. Rob Earhart, his daughter, is starting medical school tomorrow. She's being enrobed with her lab coat officially tomorrow, so he will be absent. And in his stead, we've asked Pedro Leon to please give you a brief update of the Q briefing, and he will be presenting it tomorrow as well. So please come if you can. Thank you. Pedro.
Thanks, Rick. Good morning. I'm Pedro Leon, Business Manager of the Economic Development Division. I'd like to present to you this morning a few highlights from the second quarter of 2017, including information on our overall employment indicators, discussion briefly of how we're doing on construction permits, touch on trade data and exports a little bit, and share with you some information nationally, a little bit on mortgage delinquency, as well as on the state exports. For those listening on the internet, this presentation is attached to the agenda and also on our website at floridabusiness.org. Before going into the economic indicators this morning, I have an opportunity to share with you an infographic slide that you see before you about an early stage data sharing collaboration that we've been doing with the city and the county and our department staff. I hope you find this of interest. This collaboration at the moment goes by the name of the Economic Development Industrial Land Study. What you see on the infographic is a symbol of a geographic information system style map, and for, as an example, a simple table of what might be able to be drawn from it. So the Economic Development Land Study for Industrial Lands is kind of an exploratory database and mapping project. What we're testing is how best to combine city and county industrial data sets. At the moment, you would have to go to multiple websites if you were to have to review them, and this is an attempt to see if we couldn't combine them in a snapshot format using GIS software, all of the city's individual industrial information, which they and their staff have been providing to our GIS staff, and information from the existing parcel database through the property appraiser's office. So our goal here is to make a community contribution to the effort being led by Team Volusia, the CEO Business Alliance, and their many stakeholders to better compete for jobs and investment. And we want to do that by kind of testing this use of GIS technology to help identify what might be the most desired potential industrial sites that we might have. So with us on the project are Information Technology and the GIS section in that department, the Office of the Property Appraiser, and Growth and Resource Management, all working in collaboration with all of our cities who we've met with and have shared their zoning data with us under the direction of our county manager and department directors. I can share with you that the early results are encouraging. We are finding that zoning and parcel data from multiple jurisdictions can be combined and then filtered by desired characteristic. That might be parcel size, it might be zoning district, and what that helps us to do is to help match recruitment prospect profiles. Generally, they'll have a certain set of needs, and we are able to now hone in on our parcel database, which, as you may know, has pretty close to 400,000 parcels in it, and help refine some of that. So we're continuing to do that. That work continues as an ongoing effort, and we are continuing to see progress and wonderful collaboration with our cities and the departments that we're working with. And with your permission, I'd simply like to acknowledge some of the folks who've been working with us on this testing effort who are here today. From Information Technology, the Office of the Property Appraiser, and the Office of Growth and Resource Management. Larry and his team, Al Hill, our GIS manager, Fred Morowitz, the Property Appraiser's Office, Palmer Patton of Growth and Resource Management.
Great.
So we will continue to provide you updates on how we are doing. Hopefully, we will continue to get good results. Moving on to our economic indicators. This is generally a good news story. The economy overall continues to make its recovery from the recession. As you may all know, it's somewhat of a slow uphill climb, but nevertheless, it's been on a positive bent. On this slide before you, you will see our quarterly labor statistics. On the right side, you'll see some trends. And in summary, these three tables on the left on labor force, unemployment, and unemployment rate are showing that we are growing our labor force by about 2.3%. The number of unemployed persons has dropped about 10%, and our official unemployment rate has decreased from 4.9 to 4.3%. Now, this is a year-over-year distinction showing what progress we've made, and it is in line historically. On the right-hand side of the table, you will see data going back to 2010 on labor force and employment, And overall, outside of some seasonal fluctuations, we have continued a positive trend on both employment and labor force. And speaking of employment, let's move to the employment bar chart. This chart is showing second quarter 2017 employment by industry sector. The numbers inside the blue bars on the left are the Q2 averages for the second quarter. And on the right side, you will see where we were, or the difference between where we were this time a year ago. And what you will see is that countywide, about 10 of the 14 sectors gain jobs. And as shown at the bottom right corner of the table, we are up over 3,400 jobs from this time year over year. So who are the strongest contributors? You'll see the biggest gains coming from retail trade at a gain of almost 1,500 jobs. The construction sector added a little over 1,100 jobs, and professional and business services adding over 800 jobs. So overall, we are continuing to see some stability and vitality in our sector. It is a phenomenon where our labor force is growing, and yet the employment seems to be absorbed because our overall official unemployment rate is dropping. Moving on to the next tables, you're probably familiar with these. They are the labor statistics for Volusia County and the 5 cities that have populations over 25,000. This is the group of cities for which information is collected. And what you will see if you look at the averages over all of them is the general trend of positive results. The 2017 data is generally the top half of each of these, and the 2016 data is at the bottom. And if you were to compare the top to the bottom, labor force expansions, fewer unemployed persons, and a downward trend in their official unemployment rates appears over all of them. Next slide. Again, similarly here for these communities. So what you can say is that this is generally consistent with our overall kind of post-recession downward trend. As we move now to residential and commercial building permits, these bar charts show another aspect of our economy, and the last quarter for the second quarter is shown in orange on the right-hand side of the chart. Now, this bar chart does a couple of things. One, the numbers inside the columns at the bottom are the actual total number of permits for any of the quarters designated. The height of the bars are showing the permit value for that period. And we've had a strong quarter, as you can see, and in both categories. One, at 534 permits, we have crossed the 500 permit threshold in a single quarter. Moreover, the value of those permits now stands at $167 million just for the quarter, and it is higher, as you can see, from any other quarter's value in the last 2 years. Moving to the next slide, you will see the activity in a little more detail. And what this reflects is that there's been broad participation across the cities and in unincorporated Volusia County in the new construction for residential permits. Again, this is new construction and does not reflect alterations or renovations. If we move now to the bar chart for commercial permits, probably the first thing you'll see is that commercial permit issuances can vary from quarter to quarter over time. That's not unusual. The second quarter level is on the far right in orange and represents for this quarter a $78.7 million value. Now, we've actually issued throughout the cities and the county a total of 26 commercial permits. And that's on par with what we did last quarter, where we issued 23. But what's different this time is the value. The value at $78.7 million is substantially higher, as you can see in the difference of the height of the two bars on your right. Notably, this quarter, we had 12 projects issued with a permit value of a minimum of $1 million apiece. And that's just remarkable. And we are happy to see that development. Those projects varied from the hotel at One Daytona, to office and residential projects, so, and even some community and public service construction. So it was nicely across the board. Year over year, this quarter's total is over $47 million, beyond that of this quarter a year ago. Moving to a little bit of the detail here, what you would notice is that the City of Daytona Beach was the one with the most activity. Their permit value was almost $48 million. The Marriott Autograph Hotel certainly would be reflected in that number. I can tell you a note of encouragement with regard to these trends in our permitting, especially the commercial permits. I happened to be attending the Real Estate Values Forum this past June, and Mr. David Murphy, a vice president of CBRE Real Estate, an industrial broker, was one of the featured speakers, and he presented his perspectives and his client experiences and what he thought about Volusia County as an industrial location. And he was observing that the landscape is changing, and they are responding to people's demands for faster and faster delivery services, and that his clients are tending now to favor very interstate-friendly locations that might have large lots available. And so we were very encouraged by that. Those locations that are close to major markets and by interstates can do well in the future. So from his point of view, we have some attractiveness down the line, and we certainly hope that continues. Next slide, please. I mentioned in the beginning that I would be sharing with you some aspects at the national level, and this is one of those. The Mortgage Bankers Association recently released some information talking about how the trends are over time since the recession on mortgage delinquency. You may recall that during the recession, mortgage delinquency went up rather markedly. Well, the good news from them is that they are showing that it is coming back down, and that those mortgages, again, those 90 days or more that are behind or beginning the process of foreclosure, have dropped to pre-recession levels at an average right now of 1.7%. Now, if you were to look at it in a little more detail on the chart, you would see that the FHA loans had the highest at 2.6%, but the VA and conventional loans are roughly 1.4 or 1.5%, and that certainly is below the averages, as you can see to the left of the shaded bar, that are pre-recession levels. Again, this is a sign of some vitality in our market, and one that we hope will continue to reflect well in our residential development. Exports on this next slide are the subject and also a key part of our state and local economy. These next slides contain information that come to us by way of Enterprise Florida. They have recently released some compiled data on 2015 and 2016 from the Department of Commerce. And they reflect the growth in export value and the support of jobs that comes from exports. So for the Volusia County MSA, export values are rising. Now, this particular slide has two lines, and they show both Volusia County and the state of Florida's growth. You'll see the difference on the axes left and right. The black line is Volusia County. And you can see that in the 10 years from 2006 to 2015, our exports have increased from $270 million to $420 million. Similarly, the state of Florida has increased by $15 billion over that same time period, and they're approaching $54 billion in total export value. Next slide, please. So here are a couple of insights into what makes that up. Okay, I'm done. And that shows the export markets that we cater to and their categories. And then following that, next slide, the impact on jobs. As you can see, 243,000 jobs were supported by Florida goods, and it is another indication of overall strength and vitality, and certainly one that we hope will continue. That concludes my remarks this morning, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Any questions? A very good report, continuing. Shows the strong economy. I really like the part that the IT is doing, the GPS and all of that. That's very helpful. I'm sure it gives a tool to those that are in the marketing. It gives an easy bird's eye view quickly for people to see the availability of parcels and their size and so forth. It's a great tool. Thank you all for putting that in there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. They've done a great job with this. It's been a big project with the cities and all the county staff, but I want to emphasize that this is just a first draft. It's just being started. I want to introduce it to you. It's not perfect yet, and by far, we're working on it.
Thank you for making a difference. And right on schedule as we go to our time certain item, Ms. Denny's.
Just a quick question, Mr. Carl, and what's so crucial about that first slide? I think we're doing that because I think the minimum we need in the commercial industrial sites is 3%, and we're not there. Is that what started
Correct.
this whole thing when we started looking at this, when we went into commercial aerospace? So I've got to bring this back to the big picture here and why this is so crucial in identifying parcels countywide, and not just where they are, but the size and how we can then get ahead of that with permitting and
utilities,
remediation and
transportation, utilities, all the infrastructure, and we're trying to get it systematically set up to where it can translate, because a BPUD in Ormond Beach is not the same thing as something going on in Farmington, which we have to translate, interpret, and
different languages sometimes.
yes, and so that's why I want to emphasize that this is just a beginning, and it gives an example of what we're trying to accomplish.
It's a good start, and again, hats off, and also hats off to the cities to work with us, because it's a lot to give information across the board. But I think it's as the chair said, it's a really needed, quick way for people to drill down, and that's what they're demanding nowadays when they look. They don't want to go through a big kabuki dance. They want to go ahead and get to it. That came from a former public works director who's retired and will remain nameless. So,
thank you, George.
Yep.
We're gonna bypass item 4 for the moment and move to time certain items, so that we have people that are here for item 5, and this is a public hearing, and public hearing portion is open, and we'll have the staff report.
Good morning. Palmer Panton, Director of Planning and Development Services. This is a rezoning of 95 acres approximately. It's best shown on page 05-6 of your agenda item. It's being proposed to rezone, this is the second hearing, by the way, being rezoned from PUD to airport property. This will make the zoning consistent across all of the Daytona Beach International Airport property, and we'll have consistent permitted uses and zoning requirements, and better accommodate potential future economic development opportunities related to the airport. Recommendation is for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have no one on the public with a card filled out to speak, so any comments?
No, sir.
Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of case Z-17-02.
Motion's made. Is there a second? Second, Wheeler. Any questions of the council? Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objections, the motion stands. Thank you very much. Now we'll move to item 4. Joanne Magley, going to tell us what's coming up. Roses.
Good morning, Joanne Magley, Community Information Director, and we have a number of new events that have been added to the list since our last County Council meeting. The first is not an event, but it's good news to talk about, so we wanted to mention it. Phase 1 of construction of the Smyrna Dunes Boardwalk, which began in June, has been completed. Phase 1 included the demolition of the current boardwalk and construction of a new boardwalk from the main pavilion to the recently opened inlet fishing pier. So now the path from the pavilion to the fishing pier is completely ADA accessible. Registration opened on Tuesday for the International Coastal Cleanup and the Halifax Indian River Cleanup. These cleanups will be held Saturday, September 16th, and volunteers can register online at volusia.org/cleanup now through September 1st. And as Pedro just mentioned during his presentation, tomorrow is the presentation from his staff for the Economic Development Division's quarterly Q briefing, and again, that's at 7:45 at Daytona Beach International Airport. In August, the Ocean Center is hosting a number of public events. Jurassic Quest Dinosaur Show will be August 11th through the 13th, and this is the largest exhibit of life-size and moving dinosaurs in North America. They even have cute little baby dinosaurs and lots of fun activities for kids of all ages. The Volusia County Fall Home and Garden Show will be August 18th through the 20th. And then if you're not afraid of snakes and spiders, you'll love the National Reptile Breeders Expo, which is August 19th through the 20th. This is the group's 18th year at the Ocean Center, and the expo is known as the largest reptile meeting in the world, with lots of captive snakes, captive-born snakes, spiders, etc. Details and ticket prices for all the Ocean Center events are online at oceancenter.com under the Events tab. And finally, we have one more event that we want to highlight, the National Lifeguard Championships that we first talked about back in February. Well, that event is next week. So here to talk a little bit more are the chairs of the event, Charlie Lydecker and Mark Swanson, who is also your Deputy Director for Public Protection.
Good morning. Mark Swanson, Deputy Director of Volusia County Public Protection. With me is Charlie Lydecker. We are co-chairs of the 2017 National Lifeguard Competition in Daytona Beach at the Hilton. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is how ideal Daytona Beach is for this competition. We have the widest beach. We have the venue that takes place right at the hotel that they stay in. So I sit on a committee, the national committee for the USLA as well, and everybody wants to come to Daytona Beach because of that reason. Not only because it's a great venue, but also because
Sorry about that.
it's not only a great venue,
I have
but
to
it's
buy
also
pizza for everybody, I guess.
because everybody wants to be in here in Volusia County because of the surf and because it makes it a little bit more challenging for the competitor. So this weekend, we're actually going to have some 1 to 3 foot seas, so it's actually going to make it a little bit more interesting for the competitors. Secondly, before we go through the PowerPoint, I want to just take the opportunity to thank the committee. This isn't something that's done by a couple people. This is something that's done by an entire committee. This is an enormous undertaking, whether it be sponsorship, whether it be the venue, whether it be contacting and talking with the USLA. There's just an enormous amount of work that goes into this competition, and I just want to make sure that the whole committee receives credit for this. So we'll go ahead and start on the PowerPoint. And this is our sponsorship page, and this is a page, there's many, many more sponsors other than this. This is just some of the primary ones that we do have. We have gotten some great support from the City of Daytona Beach, also from the CVB. They've given us great support this event. Like I said, everybody wants to come here because nobody does it better than Volusia County does it. So we can thank a lot of these sponsors for our success in these events. We have at this time we have about 1,000 competitors that will come to the event. Along with them, they bring their families. So when they bring their families, we get heads in beds, we get people utilizing our restaurants and utilizing different things within the community. So that's a win-win for Volusia County. We have about 1,800 room nights scheduled right now in the Hilton. The Hilton is actually full, so there is no more room for anything. We actually had to go to an alternative hotel, which is the Bahama House, and we actually have some rooms being reserved there as well. So, this comes a time of the year when the hotel rooms, the hotels need the assistance to get heads in beds, and this is enabling to do that. It's a 4-day competition, Wednesday, which starts on the 12th. That'll be the juniors event. Anybody under the age of 19 actually comes in and they can, it's a whole day of the juniors actually competing. All subsequent days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, are the adult events. And I strongly encourage you to take the opportunity to come down to the event and to see it. It's quite you'll be able to see not only Volusia County, but how lifeguards across the country actually do their jobs every day. They train for these types of rescues every day, and they train for these events every day. We have about 50 plus teams coming. We have them coming from New York. We have them coming from New Jersey, just all around the United States. These teams will actually be coming in. California actually trains for this event all year. They actually show up with a semi. So they bring lots of equipment, they bring lots of competitors, and that's usually why they usually win most years, is they're ready for it. The next slide is this is our venue. Like I said, behind the Ocean Walk is the perfect venue for this event, and you can see how we have it set up. And Charlie will talk a little bit more about some of the things that we have in the venue itself, but the 4-day event, we've added some things this year that we didn't have in 2015, which is we have some food trucks down there. We're going to make kind of like a food court down there for people. We want to make this not only a competitor event, but we want to also make it a spectator event. And people that are coming here and staying in Volusia County, we want to kind of spark them to come back again. So we'll be doing that throughout the event. There'll be lots and lots of things for them to watch. This is one of the things that the city of Daytona Beach has done for us, is they've given us a lot of the permitting in kind, which is great. It allows us to do more things with the competition. These are some banners that will be posted on the ISB bridge coming over at either going eastbound or westbound, and it just kind of welcomes the competitors coming in for the event. There'll be other signs posted throughout the city and throughout A1A, and of course on the beach and the boardwalk, actually showing the event. This page is actually some pictures from the 2015 event, and these are just some different things. There's a run, swim, run. There's a paddling of dory boats. There's just lots and lots of activities that will take place during the course of those 4 days. So, like I said, I welcome you to come down and to look at it and support Volusia County Lifeguards and Volusia County in general. But before I go to the video that we're going to show, I'd like to turn it over to Charlie Lydecker, who'd like to speak a little bit more on behalf of the lifeguards.
Thank you very much, Mark. It is something you should feel good about, because it's an event that really is not, one of these big tax-supported kind of deals. It's volunteerism, and it's the love of the Volusia County lifeguards, who are really giving of their time, separate and apart from when they're up in the tower, saving lives on the beach, etc. And that in and of itself is not that easy, because you're having to come up with times to meet, and people having to come in on days off, and this has been going on for a year. And of course, we went through it once before in 2015, and at the time you'll recall it was 2015 and 2017. This is the second of the two events. It is worth noting, and I think something you should feel good about, because I know this was controversial, that when the city manager and the team recommended to the county council, and with which the county council ultimately supported, what do you have to do to change the culture on the beach? And 5 years ago, there was a different set of unwritten rules, it seemed like, that were permitted down there. That has changed, and I think you can feel really good about Mark Swanson. And Brian White is a supervisor on the beach, and I think represents the beach really well, and in that spirit. He's also president of the Volusia County Lifeguarding Association. For me, it's something I'm really proud of. I have 3 children. All 3 have gone through the training, and I can tell you right now, I don't know how they do it, because I have a daughter in high school, and she's in sports, and she's trying to make grades, and she's trying to do everything. And then during the wintertime, she has to find the 40 hours to go for life rescue training and first responder training and and then you have to qualify, which is tests in swimming and endurance and running, etc. So it is not easy. And on top of that, where you were 5 years ago, or 4 years ago maybe, whatever it was, today, there's 262 lifeguards, I believe, and just last year, there were 200. So, it's not easy to recruit those folks to get up in the towers, and then to take responsibility for the swath of water that they have to look over. My 11th grader, I know, had an older brother and older sister, and who were at the beach, and she was super nervous about it, and she used to talk to me about it. She's the quieter of the 3, and so. but now I could just see it in her. In the last month, she's just is just much more confident and much stronger. And she's been on rescues, and the stuff that we read in the paper, she's been part of. She's been there. She's seen it. She's responded to it. So I think it's something that's really neat. And I just think it's something you should be proud of, because it has not even occurred to me to ask, what's it like over at the beach after work? Is any of these old guys coming on to you? Any kind of crazy things? It's a very disciplined beach, and again, you should feel good about it, because I know that was an important issue. We wanted to say thank you because the county council and the team has been very supportive, as has the city of Daytona Beach. They've been wonderful to work with. Not so much because we're just flowing with money, because we're working on lifeguard salaries, and as you can see, we have tons of sponsorships, and everybody's throwing in $2,000, $3,000. That competition thing you saw, one of them was a competition tent. It's not done anywhere else in the United States. California has only been dreaming about the ability to do what they do here in Daytona Beach, but we have a massive tent that Palmer College is in doing massages and sports therapy for the 3 days. They're getting their students in, and they're working with athletes from throughout the country, appreciative athletes who are like, I cannot believe you're doing this for me because I have an event in 2 more hours. And it's air conditioned, and as you know, with the air conditioning and trying to air condition on the beach is not that easy. So there's actually a lot of money that does actually go in this. It's just not taxpayer money, and I know that's consistent with a lot of your general philosophies. And I'll wait for another day to make a pitch for more money, but not today. You should feel really good about it. If your schedule permits, though, we of course love to host you as our VIPs, and we have VIP passes. And the beauty of these passes are that they come these little buoys on here. Get punched, and it comes with a beer. And, we're very cautious. We're very cautious about that. But for county council members, there's an unlimited amount of beer that comes with these VIP passes. So I just want you to feel good about that. And if you don't drink...
What was the limit on that, Charlie?
Yeah. There's actually 10, but,
Can we have 2 cards?
Yeah. If you want to go ahead, Brian, just pass those out. And then these, I think you're going to think are super cool. I hope you do, because the lifeguard tower was made by Laura Werner, who's one of the chief lifeguards in Ormond Beach. And she's a mom with 2 kids now, and has an architectural design degree, but she's playing the role that she's playing and she makes these by hand. So we've suggested to her to make some more, but they take like a couple of hours. They take time. And so, but I hope you enjoy these, and I'm going to ask Brian in just a moment to pass these out. George, I couldn't help but notice you don't have one of these, and you need to have one, but I was relieved to know that the drinking cards were in there, so you do have that part, okay? So Laura's still working on these. We do hope you like it. So it's Thursday. One of the things you should know is that it's not only for juniors under 19 years of age. Then there's the open, athletes, college athletes that are coming from throughout the country. Then there's age group into the master's level on both the men and women's side of it. So it really is opened up. It really is kind of a family. We think it's very consistent with how we see ourselves here in Volusia County in terms of sports and highest and best use of the beach, clean. Mark talked about heads and beds. We don't actually designate the Hilton per se. It just happens at the competition sites behind the Hilton. But we have other hoteliers on the site. So, having said all that, if we can answer any questions, we'd be pleased to. The best days to be there would be more likely Friday and for sure Saturday. In the off chance that you're available on a Friday evening and you want to come down and check out those punch cards, there is one event that we do that's unique to Volusia County that occurs at nighttime, and we started at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. And we did it for the first time 2 years ago, and I think we're calling it the NASCAR Daytona Beach Volusia County Pit. And if you know, behind the Hilton, there's a volleyball court that's surrounded by red bricks, and it's just a one-court deal. We take that, with the city's permission, they've been pretty good about this, we take all that out, we put very moderated lighting around there, consistent with the sea turtle issues, and we have bleachers around it, and it's an event that's called Flags, and if you can just envision that, and it's the finals. The prelims are during the day somewhere else, but it's the finals. So the final top 10 women in the United States and the final top 10 men in the United States line up, 10 of them line up on one side, and if you could just envision, they have to lay on their stomachs, face the opposite direction, and there's 9 hoses on the other side. It's a 20-yard dash. So when the whistle goes, there's 10 people vying for 9 hoses, then there's 9 people vying for 8 hoses, and it gets more and more competitive, as you can imagine. It's highly aggressive on both the women's side and the men's side. And actually, I'm proud to say my daughter just qualified for that. So we're going to, I'm now worried about her nose and everything else. But it's a really fun event. It's all in. It's about an hour from 8 to 9 for the 2 groups. But honest to goodness, we must have had a couple thousand people jammed up because, again, Mark said it. We wanted to be spectator friendly. We wanted to be pro-economic development. We want to make sure they're done by like 5 o'clock each day so people go out and use restaurants. California, they finish up like at 7:30 at night. Everybody's so exhausted they order pizza in their room. So, we're really kind of thinking about, in the best possible way to showcase, but it's wildly popular. So if you happen to be out on a Friday evening having dinner at one of the restaurants and you want to come by, we would love to have you. Our competition for this is Manhattan Beach, California. It's Newport Beach, California. It's Virginia Beach, Virginia. It's Long Island. It's, all over the place. But everybody really, really likes the Daytona Beach piece of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I guess one reason California wins, they practice all year long, and they're swimming with great whites. Here they just get the little small sand sharks and those little things. So they're accustomed to those. They swat those off, right?
One reason they're really good, candidly, is it's so embedded in their culture that they literally hire people for that competition, and then they never sit tower. So they literally are training all the time. Like, it's a big deal that Volusia got to 265 lifeguards because there's still sections that they can't, watch like they would like to. So when the competition occurs, Volusia County can't relieve people to go to the competition. So there's always a skeletal Volusia County team, and California comes in with this, massive deal because it's just a different, it's a different thing. But we're getting there slowly.
Well, they put them on Baywatch so they can get paid more too. So, but anyway, thank you very much.
One more thing before the video is I wanted to remind everyone that there's going to be a proclamation done on Thursday morning prior to the event starting for the adults. And Councilwoman Billy Wheeler is going to be presenting that proclamation designating that day as Lifeguard Appreciation Day. So that's an exciting thing as well. So we'll go ahead and show you. It's about a 60-second video and kind of outlines some of the events that actually take place down on the beach.
We have to provide those tops that they wear. Everybody's the same color for safety reasons. And the caps represent each team. That's the surf ski. That's really hard to stay on. That's the adult division in the Maury boats. That's the surfboard piece. That's flags right there. That's prelim during the day. That cap is from Panama City, and that guy's from Australia. The Australians come here when it's wintertime for them. They come to Florida, so they're year-round. I felt good about that. I hope you liked it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
At this time, we'll move to item 5A, and this is the nomination for Sunrail for the Citizens Advisory Committee. The 2 citizens that are on there, Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate, I'll do both of them, Jeffrey Morris and Liz Sturgeon to the Sunrail Citizens Advisory Committee.
Are there any other nominations? Your motion has been made to nominate Jeffrey Morris and Liz Sturgeon for the Sunrail Advisory Committee. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion will carry. And with that, we will move to item number public participation. We have no cards.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, sorry.
And it's not a nomination, it's, had brought this up several meetings ago about the PLDRC, my appointment, Mr. Jeff Gov from New Smyrna Beach. I would like to, the city, we're just, it would just be more comfortable if we didn't have a city employee in the PLDRC, especially with some projects coming up and they're aware of it. We've had these conversations. So I would like to, take Mr. Gov off of the PLDRC. It's not personal, he's been a good member, but it was just going to be better going forward with that. But hopefully by the next meeting, I will have somebody else to reappoint.
Okay. So make note that that will be taken care of.
That?
To take him off?
You're going to have to, yeah, you'll have to make a motion for that.
Okay, I move to remove Jeff Gov from the PLDRC.
Second.
Motion's made and second to remove Jeff, last name?
Gov, G-O-V-E.
Gov. Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, that motion will pass, and we'll take the other issue up at the next meeting or when you're able to get an additional person. And there's no public participation cards. Marcy?
No, sir.
Thank you. With that, we'll move now to discussions of matters not on the agenda. George, you have anything?
Mr. Chair, before we,
I'm sorry.
I'd like to, I do have an appointment for the Agriculture Business Interrelations Committee. That's not on the agenda, but but it's, I have someone that has consented, met the qualifications. You have a copy of that application in your packet. Does everybody have that? Oh, Mrs. Gray?
Don't have it, but that's okay. I think, I don't know that it necessarily has to be on there, does it, Dan? For her to make that nomination for that board?
No, actually, and I think this was mentioned at a previous meeting.
Okay.
We were trying to find someone to get on that
Sure.
committee, and she has qualified, and I'd like to move Mrs. Sandra Gray for the Ag Business Interrelationship Committee.
Great. And is it-
Excuse me, Marcy Zimmerman. I believe Ms. Gray was already appointed. I'm looking it up now.
She was appointed, but there was something with her application that had to be taken care of.
Correct, so she still remained on the board. She was appointed.
She remained
March
on the board
16.
even though she had some.
It was squared away, so she remained on the board.
All right.
Okay. Good.
That takes care of it. Thank you.
Okay. George?
Just quickly, council had asked us to send a letter a few meetings ago in regard to the Governor's Fund for Economic Development. That kind of was the, he was given by the legislature, I think was part of his deal for, at that time, we sent the letter, and since then the governor's office has come out with a format of how to apply a grant type format. Just we will be bringing that to you the next meeting with the layout of how we'll ask for that money. We believe because we have some projects that are ready to go. One, the Williamson, as you discussed, and we have private money involved in that. We think we have a very good chance. So we'll be bringing that forward and in the format that they've requested, along with the airport project as well. So that'll be coming to you next meeting.
Good. Dan?
Nothing, sir.
Nothing else? Then we'll start with Mr. Patterson for council member comments.
Hi.
Ms. Post?
Oh, I don't have anything to add either.
Ms. Wheeler?
Yes, I would just like to have an update for the next meeting on what's going on with the boardwalk. I have citizens asking me about it, and I really don't have a clue of what to tell them, so I would appreciate some kind of an update on that. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Good. Ms. Cusack?
I have nothing.
Well, we can skip Ms. Denny's and me, and we can be out of here before 11 o'clock, but I have a feeling that isn't going to happen. Ms. Denny's?
Do you want to go first, Mr.
No, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Council, also, I'm going to touch a subject here before we go into our budget hearing. And I want to talk, it's going to impact a couple of things for me. It's our rollback going to zero. Going to zero. First of all, let me ask this question. Donna, right now, we're staying at the millage at 6.1?
That's correct.
Okay. If we went to rollback, what would that be? I mean, complete rollback, what would that be?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I'd have to get that for you.
Okay, would you get that? Because last year it was 6.3. We did a partial rollback to 6.1. And when the previous council and when we looked at this going forward, it's been presented as 6.1 based on go to zero.
That's correct.
And the go to zero, when it was first introduced to the previous council, and what we talked about in discussion was based on some tenets, and 12 of those, there was 12 of them, and 3 of the major ones were that it was only going to work if, this was back in 2016, construction costs and proposed capital projects don't increase above projections. Well, we're 30 to 40% almost in every project that's coming in, Turnbull Bay Bridge and every one that we're seeing coming in. And no major emergency situations occur that would require more money than in the emergency reserve fund. Well, there's Hurricane Matthew, there's 22 million, and no homeless shelter costs are included, there's 13 million. So we're at 35 million, but somehow still able to go to zero and still on plan. I have to tell you, for me, I'm extremely uncomfortable to the point that I'm trying to, and I have taken criticism, and I'm going to speak for, I've taken criticism that the presentation on the courthouse, and this is not about the project, I'm going to talk to process and then into the project, was not an agenda item. And it came before council, and it gives the appearance that we just gave the go-ahead with no agenda item, no public participation, and nothing very public. And I understand that, especially when we're in budget talks right now and where we are. And the presentation said the preliminary preferred option. Well, if that's the preferred option, that's telling me there's other options out there, but that wasn't presented to council. So what I'm asking for, I'm asking for an agenda item on the courthouse for more discussion from council to ask these questions among ourselves and publicly, to be extremely comfortable with it. Because at the same time, we're told that it's got to be an agenda item for us to vote on it or to go forward. We've had more discussion on backyard chickens than we have a $100 million new construction courthouse. We've had a lot of discussion on chickens in the backyard, council members. We need to have a discussion on this huge project, and we need to do it in tandem with Go to Zero. We need to do it in tandem with what we're looking at with our millage. Don't get me wrong, I support the project. I understand. I support the Go to Zero, but not at the cost to the citizens. And what I guess what I'm struggling with too is, and Votrans, we look at the discussion we had on services to our citizens on Votrans and workshops. Now that's the very basic transportation need for our citizens. But yet, I've been told, well, we can't implement that until the council passes the budget. I don't want projects held hostage based on whether or not we do a rollback or a partial rollback, if we can still get there and still come to a $100 million project, capital construction project on a courthouse. So what I'm asking, and then the answer is, well, it's not programmed. Well, we didn't program buying $225,000 ships to sink either. We didn't. So I'm sharing with you where I might go during our budget talks, and I think we as a council, we need to have a discussion on this. You know, what are our priorities? Sinking ships is not a bad thing. But when we're told as councils and elected here, we want to increase services to our citizens, but it's got to be programmed. You got to have a hearing. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this. That's how the process of government works. I'm okay with that. But I'm really struggling to the point that our outstanding debt is about $8 million, and I know the last call on the bond is November 2018, and we've got about, what is it? Donna, we talked about 15 on One Daytona that we're going to pay off in cash. So if it means delaying a project a year and not doing rollback, I mean, not doing go to zero, but do a partial rollback, get our Votran up and running for our citizens and our basic services, and still do the project. I'm not saying don't do the projects. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying, if we can, how do we, if first we're said, well, you can't do that because if we can only go to rollback. Okay, well, there's the 12 tenets that were laid out. This is what, if any of these happen, we probably can't go to zero. Okay, 3 major out of the 12 happened. 35 million. So I'm asking council members that we have a discussion on the big picture here and consider at a minimum a partial rollback. And if it means a delay, which I don't think it does if we drill down in the numbers, and even this big capital project that we're going to go forward on with a courthouse. And I'm not saying I'm against that. I'm not. But I'm really, really struggling with some of the process here. And I can't justify it. And some of my I can't justify it. So
just one quick comment on that. And
Please,
these type of issues are some on a smaller scale that I'm used to working in for 16 years, where you would workshop items. We would have a workshop where we lay out what we individually want in an open setting where we can talk to each other instead of having an item brought to us for consideration, which gives the appearance that we're given zero, just carte blanche to go do something. It would be something that we as a council, which was, I guess it was put out, the design by the company to design and create something for the courthouse system and to come back with it. But that still, to me, needs to be workshopped by the council.
I don't.
George, I'll let y'all all speak in just a minute. Right now, I want to follow up on this, because I think this is one thing that will really help us make us more effective. Your idea and your thoughts about the rollback. We need to have a general workshop where we can sit down, open up, and talk to each other about stuff. Maybe you say, well, let's look at this, let's look at that. We need to have that at least once or twice a year where we can just sit and talk. The boardwalk issue you're bringing up, I know a little bit about it. I just know something's happening. I don't know exactly what's happening. I don't think any of us know what's happening. But that's where we as a council need to sit and talk to each other so that we can be informed and not get beat up by the residents and the people that sent us here to do the job. And you tell them, I don't know what's going on with the boardwalk. And we didn't really vote to approve $100 and something million. That's for $6 million. We all know that nothing happens until something comes back to be voted on. We know that. But the perception that is to the public is, you've just said, sign it off. And to those that were committed to going to zero, they're looking, here you can spend $100 million. Well, you hadn't spent $100 million. But the idea is, maybe they think we have. So I'm going to ask and try to see if we can't set a time. And if it means that we have to come in early, stay late, or whatever it is sometime, to just sit and talk to each other and share our thoughts on that and anything else.
That's our job.
Joyce, you've always come up with good ideas in things, and Heather, I know you've got ideas, and Billy, I know that you do, and Deb, I know we all have ideas and thoughts, maybe where we want to go. You saw how we did when we workshopped the transportation on the VOTRAN. And that's what one piece I think that we can help. So I will try to get with the manager and try to come up with some times or dates that each of you can look at and say, we want to do that. I mean, obviously today would have been a great day with a short meeting that we come back and say at 1:30 we're going to have a workshop. And it doesn't have to be one that we have, I don't think it has to be televised or audioized or whatever has to be done. We just need to be able to sit and talk, huh? Just to talk. Just to sit and talk. Maybe you don't like the way I run the meeting. Maybe I don't, somebody's already said they don't like me not wearing a tie, but I take that and with a grain of salt. I'll let George not wear a tie too, so.
Well,
that'd be good for.
George, go ahead.
Let me just say one quick thing. I think we really need to be clear is what was presented last council was the culmination of several months of work of Dewberry, who you helped us select to go out and study the situation.
Which was from last July, which I pointed out, which we know that.
Yeah, so, time, what we showed was the culmination of that study.
Right.
And that what they felt was the best option, talking especially to the stakeholders, the judges, the state attorney, the public defender, et cetera. The manager was, and I know he would say this if he were here, this was just the start. I mean, the very, very start of presenting this to you and getting direction from you if we want to move forward and look at this project, because this will take a number of years to come to its end, for an end product.
Well,
and I think he took away that you certainly wanted us to certainly begin that process of looking at it. We, by no way have we felt that we took away that you had approved the project.
We're not saying that you
Yeah.
did. We're not saying that staff
But the public
did.
did.
We're
I'm
saying
just
that
trying to get this on the record because the public is hearing this, that the manager did not take away that suddenly he's got carte blanche to go out and start a project. This is just, at least we've given you the results. He's got the go-ahead to start looking into this and putting this into the whole process.
I think you need to
and
stop,
bring that
Donna,
back
because
to you.
we know this.
But listen, we did not get the results. We got one option. The council was presented one option. The complete report isn't even finished yet. So this is where council has to talk, with all due respect. This is where we need to talk. Council did not get all the options. We got one option, the preferred option. It was not an agenda item. There was no public input. And I don't want the impression out there, too, that just because we said we like the project or thumbs up, there was no vote, that means go purchase land, take down buildings, move this. Here's my analogy. I thought about this. If I said to my architect, I want you to bring me back some engineering plans, build me a house. I want a new house. He comes back and here it is. Oh, by the way, we're going to add a pool and a mother-in-law suite. And by the way, we've added a 10-acre tract, so your neighbors are going to love this. We're going to they can put their RVs and park their boats there. Don't worry, you're going to pay for it, but they're going to love it. And it goes on and on and on. That's the preferred option from the architect when I asked to build a house. So I think this is a very real issue that we need to look at the impacts, because this is the largest capital project ever in Volusia County history. And one of the quotes, as I was going back through this, one of the hallmark reasons for going to zero at the beginning was this quote from our manager: being debt-free is important because it eliminates the burden of borrowing to pay for things from future generations. We're not doing that. So if we're going the premise of go to zero, very genuinely, I think we need to regroup here, because I'm okay with not going to zero. I can't believe I'm saying I'm okay with not going to zero, doing a rollback, or at a minimum a partial rollback, still doing the project. I think we can accomplish everything, but I think we owe the citizens and the taxpayers a better discussion on the project.
While I know you have the floor. George, you had another comment on this, or you're...
Pretty much what Donna said.
Okay,
was what
we
I
don't
was
need to
gonna
go into that.
Exactly. I
we
think we
know
got the
that.
idea, and I will say, the manager has always been very supportive of workshops, and we've done literally hundreds of them through the years on budgetary items, and we'll continue that. And I think you know, we hear you, and that's where we'll put it together.
Okay, Ms. Post? You have a comment on-
I just wanted to say, I think Councilwoman Denny's makes an excellent point, and I'm absolutely in agreement with that.
Ms. Cusack?
I'm in agreement with that, but I want to be very clear that the presentation that we had from the manager did not obligate us as the final project. And I don't want it to be understood by citizens that we okay something without having had some discussion, without having some public hearings. But how is any idea or any directions given or implemented if you don't have an opportunity to present the mindset as to where you're trying to go?
Exactly.
And so I think what happened was that's what was presented to us by the manager. I don't want it to appear that he was doing this on his own. We had directed him to look at how can we better serve and utilize and get our court systems under one umbrella. That was
Exactly.
that had already been discussed even before my time. And so this was the culmination of a group that had come together and made some with research and information and put something pen to paper. And that's what we had. And so now I don't want us, and that we will have lots of time where we will have public participation. We can have workshops, but you got to start with something. And what we saw was the beginning of starting something. And so I don't want it to be I don't want us to have the mindset that it was out of line, that he was acting on his own. Because
I don't think any of us, I don't feel that way. I felt like what was
it sounds
presented.
kind of like it doesn't kind of give me a bit of heartburn that that's what it sounds like.
No. I think it was the perception that she's had from people, the comments I've read in letters to the editor, that people are saying that what we're doing, which we haven't committed to, the vision with the visioning there has been in process for a decade or longer.
That's right.
Which you're exactly right. And what we have, if you don't have a vision, you're going nowhere.
That's right.
And so this was a vision.
And this
that
was a
put out
vision,
there.
and this is where we were. Now, as far as the chickens go, I think you brought the chickens to the table. That's what I said. For meetings, we talked about them. Exactly. And so I just think that we have to start somewhere. And workshop, yes, by all means, but when we give directions to set up committees to work with some people to do some things, and you bring a report back, I don't want the citizens to think that we've spent $120 million.
No. And it's unfortunate. Ms. Post, you had nothing.
That was something I wanted to point out about the actual committees that you brought up, Councilwoman Cusack, is we appoint these people on these committees to come up and do the research and do this stuff. And as the chair of the Public Safety Council Committee, I know that fully that is their role. And they came back with a fantastic plan that hopefully we can bring to fruition in some way. So.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Ms. Cusack. Okay, Ms. Wheeler.
Okay, I agree with all of this, and I think what the bottom line is, we just want the citizens to know that we are a part of the process, that we are in the stages of making the decisions, but we haven't made a final decision.
Right.
But we want to be in the conversation. We want to know all the ins and outs, and that's kind of like I felt with the boardwalk. I'm hearing so much comment about it, and I'm hearing people say, well, you need to check about it, and you need to know, and do you know, and did you know, and I say, no, I don't. I don't know anything. So I think it's that we have to be informed on the decisions that are made or things that are going on. It's important for us to be informed to represent our citizens.
And that was a vision. That was a vision too.
Yes,
That was the same type of
exactly. And
and it hasn't gone anywhere, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I hear that it has, but I don't know.
Well, we have not voted on anything.
That's
How
right.
can it go anywhere?
I don't know, but there's conversation that maybe we need to be up to par with the conversation. You know, I just don't like things sprung on
I
me.
think some of the things on the boardwalk are being worked with private individuals who don't need to have it be made public at this point in time for the fear of driving up the cost of something. If you came out and told somebody that we're going to put a boardwalk that's going to be 20 feet wide, it's going to be for, I know the distance, but I mean, a mile long or 2 miles long.
Cannot that be discussed in a workshop?
Well,
It doesn't have to be something that I'm going to go out and tell everybody, but it's something that, you know. Yeah, yeah.
Let me just weigh in on the boardwalk. What I can tell you on the boardwalk is, and a little bit of supplies in the court also. Remember now, we build roads and things all the time, and we have a pretty good machine, you know, for that. When you get into like the boardwalk where we're at was we had to go on out and it was approved just for the feasibility. So we're back at the feasibility stage, and we'll have that report for you, but that takes engineers, and it takes the coordination of engineers, legal staff, the state. A lot of people have had to meet just to see if that thing's even feasible, and what would be feasible. And that's where we're at, and that report's coming through. So that's why there's been like a gap of time, and I think when there's a gap of time, people think nothing's happening and we're not being informed. We don't really have anything to tell you yet because we have to have that data, and there's a lot of smart people that are working on to come up with that answer. So and I'll get that for you, and you're right, we need to have it, and we'll have it in these reports. It's really kind of those are special. You look at our capital project report that we do.
Right.
That's the regular stuff. These will be almost their own categories. They'll stand alone. And the same with if we move forward with a court project, you know, we'll be assembling a in-house team. And part of what the manager needed to do is that's a shift of resources within the organization. It may mean, an example of that, I was pulled from one department to another to actually work on the Ocean Center. So that's the kind of thing he has to know before, because these things are so far, he has to at least get the nod, and that's all we got. We know is the nod to take it to the next level. As Ms. Cusack said, you got to start somewhere, and that's what we're doing. We would absolutely have workshops, and that's what we'll do to tell you what's going on.
I want to make one more finishing point, and then, I think probably that's where some of the communication problem is, because you have new council people that we don't know what the prior council had already given the permission for, and all of a sudden we have something sprung on us that we think, where the heck did this come from, when it was actually
in progress,
brought about years ago.
Mr. Eckert.
This is not really a legal issue, but I think perhaps this would be helpful. I know it was the manager's desire that you not be the last to know, that you see what was being presented regarding the courthouse, because there was going to be other public discussion of it. Now, there's some, I'm just a lawyer, but I think there's probably two implicit premises which would be helpful for you to have a discussion about, because it impacts upon the conclusion that was made. The first of those is that City Island is not worth rehabilitation. And that's something that you can talk about. When I came and understand, because I think it's fair for you to understand why, and the public not understand why. At one time, I've been here a long time, at one time there was discussion, well, City Island could have additional floors added and so on. But the structure of it, the internal dynamics, the prisoner transport, causes the conclusion that it cannot be rehabilitated. You deserve to understand in more detail why, and I think that's all Councilmember Denny's is asking. The second is that Foxman Justice Center is worth saving and should be the linchpin of the structure. You should understand, well, that's not necessarily a given. You could consider building other places, but those are the two major premises of the report that was given to you. And so having a discussion and saying, why is that so? Let me make sure I understand why, is entirely appropriate. But what you were given was so that there wouldn't be, so that the council would see this at the same, not later than others were going to see it, was the report. But it is entirely appropriate, as Councilmember Dennis says. Okay, now you've told us what the result. Can we see your work just to make sure that we can explain and understand it? And then how that impacts upon your budget discussion is your discussion. Whether or not you think that it affects your premises of go to zero or not, that's your policy-making role.
Okay.
It's also fair to ask for an update on the boardwalk, which predates some of you. But I just want to indicate that this is the direction. Councilmember Dennis, you say, okay, I understand what you're saying, but let's review how you got there.
Right.
And that's all you've asked, and I think that's entirely appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay. You're good? Okay. I'll move on and make my brief comments. One, I wanted to share with everyone I think, a very successful trip. We were invited, all the commissioners in the state of Florida were invited. We followed the state of Pennsylvania, the White House, I guess that's the, what was the group, the affairs, Intergovernmental Affairs Agency, who have someone who represents and works with the secretaries and each of the departments within the federal government. And they had people, we had 2 secretaries that came and spoke and had conversation with us. They weren't talking down to us, they were engaging us. I don't know in the history of the United States they've ever invited county council people from all over the country, which is what their intention is, to come in and to share what you feel are issues that they have to have. I've never seen it. They've gone back to where they're operating now within the department's basic business 101. You get the best people in those agencies to have the responsibility to do the jobs and then the accountability to be responsive and timely in their response and efforts. Amazing the attitude of the people that I engage, and we engage with them individually and collectively. The seriousness of how they took the fact that we're being left out and we're not being informed. The reception that we had meeting with the reimbursement director for FEMA, and we sat there and met. He engaged the regional director in Atlanta on a phone call. We had people representative from the White House to listen to our concerns, our valid concerns, as they said. And they realized that they have issues and they want to really work through some of those. They give an example where a case that's 7 years old, they're having to claw back, they didn't like to use that word, a county in Texas had, I'll use rough numbers, $56 million they had paid. They're having to go back now and claim back about $12 million from this county because somebody didn't dot an I or dot a T or it got through. But they're genuinely concerned. They were actually told to take all of it back, but they found a way to justify the claims on FEMA on the disaster to do that. So I think that I was very encouraged by seeing the difference in the attitude of some of the people, the personnel. And we had number 1 and number 2 people in the different agencies there to come and we're just county commissioners. I mean, we're not CEOs of businesses or anything, but the fact that they wanted our opinion is encouraging to me that we're going to be able to have a conversation. They want us to be able to engage with them. They wanted to put a face and a conversation with people who say, oh, those people at FEMA don't do this. No, I'll say it's Alex that doesn't do it, or something like that. And so you have a contact. And I think all this is going to help, and it's going to help throughout the country. Before I met with Congressman DeSantis, and before I was going to meet with FEMA, he said, I don't guess he minds me sharing it, I mean, he said, you might want to tell them when you meet with them that you understand that some of the departments within the federal government may be cut. And then I'm to say, well, I don't know whether that's FEMA, I don't know whether that's Commerce or what department it is, but you might tell them your congressman said there may be some cuts. So you better get on the stick and be proactive. But I thought that was pretty cool that he would say that, to use that, because they're wanting results. They're wanting to get get the things done. So I was excited about that, thankful that, I appreciate you all allowing me to, us to be there. It was very worthwhile. I didn't spend a ton of money. I spent more of my own money than I did of yours, but that's beside the point. So just want to share that. I got to get my suits cleaned, by the way, too. It was hot. But it was rewarding. It's business that we had to do. Actually, we've developed a relationship with our lobbyist up there. They've asked if we could arrange to come back either in September or October once the budgets get a little bit further along. Also, the news that I got that they didn't feel that there were going to be significant cuts anywhere. In fact, they felt like some additional money was going to be coming in some areas. CDBG. Right. So I think I sent the copy of some of those. You already have the copy of that, but I think the people, the residents will know that we were up there actually working. I got criticized on social media, but I don't pay attention to social media. I don't operate as the county council person on social media, operate here and in the open with the people. So they can criticize me of all they want on social media. I can take it. Next, I want to thank Sheriff Chitwood for what he did with the Internet Cafe action in my home area. Wasn't in the city of Ormond Beach, but the person who did that, it's in District 4. But to take that action, I appreciate him taking the initiative because it was a costly, and let's let the courts decide. Two more quick things. We have a memo from the county attorney about our options on the medical marijuana dispensaries. As we see other cities are doing what they're doing, I would like to see if we could put an item at least on for discussion for the next agenda. 71% of the people voted to approve medical marijuana for those that have the need for it. And yet now it seems like everyone's wanting to cut out the place for them to be able to purchase the needs for their health, which to me personally makes no sense, but that's just me. And we'll have a discussion. I'm going to ask for a discussion on the next agenda, if time will permit on that one. And last but not least, does anyone have an objection? Gray Robinson, our lobbyist that we retain for Tallahassee, is submitting a bid on an RFP for the city of Ormond Beach. Does anyone object to them, since they are ours, not necessarily a vote? I don't see any conflict on that personally, if they were to get the Ormond Beach as well.
Oh my gosh, we have no control over that. No.
I was asked to ask that. So, okay. I asked it. It's done.
Do you want to do that?
What's that?
You gave it.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one. You didn't put these out, pass them out yet?
No, you were going to mention.
I received a letter, maybe each of you did too, from Ponce Inlet about the dog cruelty and some things like that, whether or not we want to support. If you don't have a copy of it, you've got all of you have a copy of that. Would you be okay if we brought that back for consideration at the next council meeting? Okay, we can do that. Bring that back, and there's no other. Sorry, Ms. Cusack.
I just want to ask a question about, are we going to bring this back about the resolution for the dog ordinance, for cruelty to animal? Because it doesn't state in here, what would the stiffer penalties be?
They didn't, but I mean, you and I would probably I'd have them, I won't say what I'd have them penalty be, but.
So I think that if we do a resolution, it should, somehow you should have some direction as to where you're trying to go with that.
Well,
maybe you just think about it.
Right. Something different, because some of the penalties that they have now for cruelty to animals is not too good. I'm going to not say
so you
what
would
I
have
really
to,
want to say, so I'm
okay, well,
trying to learn as they get older.
I'm trying to understand this because I think one does not fit all. And so when you talk about a resolution, have stiffer penalties, I want to know what penalties are you talking about? So, for me to be in agreement.
Well, it's going to come back to us at the next meeting, and if we can make suggestions to that, we certainly can. But the state's going to be the one, as you know, that would be something that you and Mr. Patterson would have done. So y'all would have come up if you want to come up with some thoughts that could be greater than what they are, I think we could certainly add it. All we're doing now is what they've asked is us to join the other cities and communities in Volusia County in support of addressing the issue at the State House. I think that's what their request is.
Mr. Chair?
One more.
Our budget hearing is, I believe the first one is September 7th at 6 o'clock. Can we somehow can you work with the manager and get a workshop that we can talk about these issues before that, and then what all this would look like and what an impact would be on the budget for all the options, so we can at least talk about it?
We'll have it before I'll get with him when he gets back. If that's nothing else, we will adjourn the meeting at 11:35. Thank you.